This is Harry Gines, the first black man of reparations in U.S. history, coming to you today with another presentation of The Invisible Man. The Invisible Man, as we know, is a believable fictional character depicting the black man in the 1940s by author, journalist, etc., Ralph Ellison. Now, in making an invisible man, it sometimes comes into a predicament. It's not always just a given to be declared an invisible man. It happens very mystique. It's always something that you just can't put your hand on it. You know it's there, but you just can't figure it out. And the invisible man, that's how he is. Everything could be going great for you. The world is yours. But yet, something always seems to happen once the invisible man casts his shadow on you. It won't matter anymore. So, whatever you have to say or plead, it won't make a difference. You are an invisible man. So it's very difficult to explain it, but I have a story and some icons that can maybe best bring out the best of the feature. Today we are featuring Arsenio Hall. Arsenio Hall, I can't think of anybody in show business in a particular era that could outshine Arsenio Hall. And the list is long. I don't care what you've done, in the motion picture industry, as talk show. His name just rang throughout Hollywood as the Prince of Hollywood, yes. So with being on top of his game, his livelihood, he came from the state of Ohio. So, like most of us, I know the story with his family that he was a son of a gospel preacher. So he has a very solid foundation in trying to grow and mature into the man that he was. But yet, it's always something that seeks in. Once it seeks in, you just can't seem to figure how it happened that a man who would be the Prince of Hollywood could possibly be declared an invisible man. Well, as the story goes, I've done a little research out on the street, asking the youth about the name of Arsenio Hall. And they had no knowledge of him. I was able to bring their recollection around by mentioning the movie Coming to America. Now, Coming to America, again, he was a co-star alongside of Eddie Murphy. But yet he will later surpass Eddie Murphy, and Eddie Murphy is a name that rings right now today in Hollywood as, yes, the King of Comedy. Yes, the true King of Comedy. Now, they really didn't want Eddie, if you notice, within the King of Comedy. So that tells you a lot, when you really go back and watch certain programs in the area of comedy. But yet, we're here today to explain how Arsenio Hall is the invisible man. Now, sometimes, in the course of a black person in the United States life, they are guilty of association. Now, if I can say it that way, many of us will be able to relate just in that term alone, guilt of association. Now, how does he become an invisible man just based off his association? Well, back before We want to make sure that our era is right on point, but yet it was still nearing the era and time of the Million Man March that was put together by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Now, this is a pivotal point in Arsenio Hall's career, making a decision that would later, as the mushrooming effect of having Minister Louis Farrakhan on his mainstream television talk show, that doesn't, see, now he has made a decision to cross a line. And it is that line that we see today by many entertainers claiming that they have no job equality, that some entertainers make more than them. But that's not the issue with Arsenio Hall. His contract gave him broad latitude to be able to bring on his show anyone he wanted. That was supposed to be, as the story was told, in writing. That's what everybody knew. So it was real easy for people to find some righteousness of his situation. Well, as the story goes, his producers, investors, they were in outrage that the minister, Louis Farrakhan, was being brought onto a mainstream television show that was ranked #1 in the world. So when that happened, you have to keep in mind, that when you're on top of your game, it doesn't seem like anything could go wrong. What could go wrong? Everything is in writing. Well, again, as I said, his producers, his investors, people who would cast an opinion of his association with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. That is what happened. And like I said, it's very important today to be able to bring forth Arsenio Hall with all the issues we're seeing and death of Congressman Lewis. It's just amazing how everybody can just forget Arsenio Hall. We can't do that. I can't allow that to happen. I can't allow the youth to not recognize Arsenio Hall's effort to bring Louis Farrakhan to the world on a mainstream news station. Now, why would that make that such a bad thing? Well, it goes back. The track record of the Minister Louis Farrakhan has made certain speeches that the world questions. You see, they question it. Is he anti-Semitic? Now, be that true or false, however the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan cares to defend his reputation as for not being someone of bad character, this is something that the world cast a invisible man over to Arsenio Hall based on the guilt of association of having such a man that could be anti-Semitic, or even accused of it. So that's how the story plays out. But yet, what makes Arsenio so special, heroic? Because a man will go through many trials and tribulations within his lifetime. Whatever scars and sins that the world can accuse, be it true or false, he is accused of wrongdoings, being associated with Malcolm X's death. Now, that's something that's on YouTube. Now, I'm not here to defend the situation, but yet it must be Arsenio's time to come forth in this time of 2020, seeing so much imbalances, inequality, racial injustice, police brutality. Arsenio Hall is a voice that he has earned such a voice to speak to the world. Today, it should be known, such a interview held not once, but twice. It happened. He continued to bring the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to the world through mainstream media. That's what Arsenio Hall done against his producers. And the fact that he has it in writing, under a contract, to be able to bring who he chooses to. It was his choice. But yet, that shadow cast over to him, whatever the views were of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that is what made Arsenio Hall become invisible. Now, if I make a comparison to someone being invisible, maybe I can use even a different term that the world may understand. It's used as blackballing. Yes, blackballing, meaning that no one of high business, would associate with you in your field. And is it a conspiracy that such a man could fall from grace like that when he had a contract? Yes. The only result that you could come up with is he was blackballed because he was too high up there, but he was knocked down by the motion picture industry. All of mainstream media disassociated himself. They disassociated themselves with him. Yes, that is what happened. So when you are caught up in someone's drama, someone else's reputation, yet none of the good attributes seem to matter. So no matter how Arsenio Hall tried to show a good side of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he wasn't able to get through to his producers, his investors. No one had any interest in hearing him out as for whatever decision he was making, irregardless to it being in writing. Now, with that being said, let's just look at the era in which the television show was going on. And we can be able to say, was this prior to the Million Man March? I would say those interviews were taken, within a year or so apart. I remember the incident, but yet it seemed like the Million Man March was, pretty much developing, may even been used as some advertisement. You see, so if you're thinking about, again, the heroic act of Arsenio Hall, allowing Minister Louis Farrakhan to be able to advertise perhaps a vision of a Million Man March. So it would be through Arsenio Hall who would have allowed the world to recognize what would be coming of the Million Man March. Just envision, because there was a lot of talk, leading up to a gathering of 1 million black men, or just 1 million men, period, regardless of whether they were black or not, whoever were present, to gather 1 million men together. Martin Luther King had also able to bring 1 million men together. So anytime you can duplicate a feat of a historical magnitude, that would have to be something that history would also, if you only depict what wrongs you see in a man's character, but you never mention any of the good of a man's character. He brought 1,000,000 men together to protest. Now, hold on a second. The 1,000,000 Man March, here we go. The question would be to the world, what was the purpose intended for the 1,000,000 Man March held by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? What was the intent behind it? That's a question. Now, I could answer that question in part, but again, trying to lay some good attributes, because you already have all the bad that any man could ever be accused of, pointing at the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You have all of those ways of looking negative about how he is. But all I'm here today is to bring out some good attributes, and then maybe the world might say, well, Arsenio Hall and Harry Guines, as boys, grew up in communities where the Nation of Islam had a mosque, had a cafe, had businesses, So it would be different for you to have to understand maybe the relation within the community that we grew up in, being Arsenio Hall and Harry Guines. We're both, I may be older than Arsenio, but not by much. Or either way, we are definitely within the same age group. And as we would grow up and as boys, we would have saw the Nation of Islam in the black community. You would have had to. Okay, so you don't get around that. So whatever views that maybe someone else has, it is possible that maybe someone else has a different opinion and views altogether. Because whatever bad things you're trying to drum up, maybe those things never happened to Arsenio Hall or to even have seen it. Same thing with Harry Guines. Maybe the relationship from what I seen were all based off good attributes. And you can't say that the good attributes weren't there. So everything becomes a mitigating factor when you're speaking of an invisible man and how someone can cast their reputation to form an invisible man onto somebody. That's what happened to Arsenio Hall. That's what happened. Now, if someone's reputation is casting a shadow, but yet again, evidently, Arsenio Hall had a different upbringing that would have a different opinion of the people who would always try to use the slander. So it's always a controversy, but yet still, you have a livelihood and get caught up. Now that's what happened, because your producers, they don't see it that way. And a lot of America doesn't necessarily see it that way. So you have a lot to overcome, even making the decision. But you thought you were in pretty good position and you stayed with it. Well, history must give you your respect. History must give Arsenio Hall his respect, because he stayed with what he saw more likely as a youth growing up. He never, came in contact with, you didn't have a YouTube to see every speech that a person ever gave. You didn't have that. That's what I'm trying to bring forth. Now, whether his opinion is the same today, having so much exposure to all the tapes and footage of speeches by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, maybe he might even have a different opinion today. You see, but nonetheless, the good attribute cannot be erased. But yet, that guilt of association seemed to have more weight. That's really what happened, though. He can't outlive that. Now, it will be with him. Yes, it will be with Arsenio Hall. But I just want to let him know that I have a great deal of respect for you. Our upbringing is more likely similar, and when it in respects to how we saw the nation growing up. We didn't have a lot of footage to go off of, you see, but nonetheless, we have seen the transition of a man. The transition of a man means that he's always evolving. And if he's always evolving, but yet you never can let go of anything that would be scandalous, you can't never let it go, but yet the good never outweighs the bad. That's what happens. It never does. No good can never outweigh the bad. Now, unfortunately, like I said, for Senator Hall, and even right now today, he is still invisible because of his guilt of association. It's a shame, because if I had to tell a story about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan as a boy, so you have to keep in mind, Arsenio Hall, it would be almost like, make a wish. We grew up, we saw Malcolm X, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. We saw them and heard them even as a boy. It's a big difference in a boy of the 20th century versus a boy of the 21st century. It is a very big difference. And I'll just give you one. If you took a kid that was 11 years old, chances are he was already working, he would be already earning a living. He would be earning a living somewhere. So if you're earning a living somewhere at 11 years old, imagine, like a boy 11 years old in the 21st century, if he had to take a buggy, a cart of something, like, you still see your Sunday newspapers, you still see those, and they're pretty thick. Well, if you can imagine, a two-wheel cart, made of iron wheels, and you would push that cart across a cobblestone street. For how many blocks? Maybe 10, 20? Who's counting? You're trying to get your papers sold, So a boy in the 21st century would look at that very harsh, Okay, how about shoveling coal? Yes, at age 11, shoveling coal. Now, a boy of the 21st century does not know anything about shoveling coal. You see, it's a big old 10-ton dump truck, dumps that kind of load out in your the front street of your house. It's a big old pile of it. And you got to get that shovel down into your basement to cover you for the winter. It's a totally different boy of the 20th century. So Arsenio and Harry Gines will more likely have seen such perseverance. But yet, as time will grow in the age of a boy going into manhood, again, because you're already doing things at 11, so by the time you get to be 12, 13, just 12, 13, just a couple more years up, you're moving up a lot faster than what a boy of the 21st century would be like. And you got all the tech. Yeah, we know all that. You got all the tech. But I'm speaking kind of a physical. There's a difference in the physical. Mental too, because you have to have some mental perseverance in you to be able to overcome some of the things that we were put through. But where I'm going with this is, and when we start talking about heroes, maybe you never saw the Nation of Islam at work, because a lot of people say, well, they don't come out and do nothing. Maybe they already have, and you haven't listened. You see, because I laid foundation earlier. If you were listening to this presentation, yes, I did. I was speaking about the Million Man March. Now remember that. And prior to the Million Man March, because that's where you will find, the historic acts of the minister Louis Farrakhan prior to the Million Man March. Not the Million Man March. People think that's the biggest feat he ever done. You see, so Arsenio and myself, we may have a different story, as we saw it growing up. There was a woman in the neighborhood, I won't call her name, nor should you challenge the minister to recollect her name, because he's been through a lot and has ministered to a lot of people. But he may remember the incident. The incident was very, made national news, might have made world news, but again, we're talking how the media rolled back then, But yes, it got attention nationally that there was a rape in the neighborhood, in the black neighborhood. And when I say black neighborhood, that's it. Okay, the neighborhood's black. Okay, talking about in the 60s now. Okay, this is the 60s. And we'll do a time travel with you, and hopefully, Minister Farrakhan might be able to get his recollections and bearings straight of the era of the 60s when he was putting in work. Now, the work he put in, like I said, there was an incident down in the Black Hood. A rape had occurred. And you might say, oh, well, it's another rape that happens all the time. But not this one. See, this one happened where when the man was done, he slashed the woman's eyes so that she couldn't, see him ever. He slashed her eyes, a black man. Okay, when it all gets, like I said, it's a black neighborhood, So yes, when it all got out the wash and found out, yes, it was a black man who done it. You see, to a black woman. Yes, this is the 1960s. Men carried case knives and straight razors. Very common and typical. So he slashed a woman's eyes, blinding her for life. This happened out of St. Louis, Missouri. Yes, that's what happened. Well, what does that got to do with Louis Farrakhan? See, that's what I keep trying to say. Maybe your story might be a little different as we grew up to see it. So to have an opportunity, Arsenio Hall jumped at it because he would remember that. Such stories, even from his own town, in the cities that he's from in Ohio. He would have stories to tell and be in awe to be able to be in a man's presence, because any of your negativity, we never saw it. No, I'm sorry. I didn't know anything like that into maybe the negativity that you speak on. That might have happened, like I said, as far as my knowledge, it would have to have started with YouTube, really. So when did YouTube come into existence? Prior to that, wasn't that much negativity. Like, there was always some accusations out there, but nothing could ever been proven. I mean, the shooters of Malcolm X, they were caught on the scene. So you know who did it, and I don't think Louis Farrakhan was in that roundup, was it? See, so not trying to defend one side or bring up anything bad. We just had no knowledge of all the things that you put out there of negativity. You see, so growing up as a boy, like I said, it really wasn't like that. He was an icon to us. Yes, he was, and still is. And that's why, no, I don't think Arsenio believed that he was wrong in any way. He felt it as an opportunity, and it cost him his career. Yes, it did. He never rose. When a man fall, I didn't fall off plenty of times. A lot of us have. But you always want to get back and to surpass, when he fell off. But that hasn't happened to Arsenio. He reached a height, and he may live his life out and never reach that height again. From guilt of association with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. That happened. You see, but again, all I'm trying to do is show you when Louis Farrakhan came to St. Louis to aid and assist in making an arrest. Are you hearing me? As a paper boy myself, like I said, I saw other paper boys from the Nation of Islam working them streets, and they was looking for somebody. Yeah, the man who slashed them eyes, they was out there, man. They was out there and they was looking for who did it. And word was, they wasn't going nowhere till an arrest was made. They wasn't from, they got miles to St. Louis, yes, but this was Louis Farrakhan in St. Louis now. He heard about it, didn't like it. He wanted something done, and he got something done. See, that's what we remember. But yet, again, Arsenio didn't, think anything was going to happen behind how it went down. He couldn't have believed his life would be turned around because of that decision to bring, Louis Farrakhan to the world through his platform, talk show. No, he couldn't have foreseen that, and himself being such a well-grounded man in his principles of being right within the contract. Well, what is it? He had nowhere else to turn but to stand on what the paper said. The people that cared about that paper, they cared about what was said. No, you are forever going to remember this decision of being associated with Louis Farrakhan. Now that's how it went. Now, casting a shadow, as you cast a shadow over to somebody like that, and yet here you are, the talk show host, trying to lead the charge for a million man coming to Washington, D.C., you was very proud of yourself, and you should be. You should be. That's why I'm here. I'm here to bring the whole thing to you, man. There's a lot of respect that I have for you personally. In the decision that you made, you really thought you had something to stand on. And people showed you different, though, because you've never reached the height of that talk show. You never reached that kind of height again. Now, as we know, the Million Man March happened, orchestrated by Louis Farrakhan, that one. But I laid some foundation that we need to talk about. The question was, what was the intent behind the Million Man March? What was that all about? And prior to that, what was it about? Well, you see, there was a tour before the Million Man March. There was a tour a few years before it. There's a few years before it. The killing of U.S. blacks, killing other U.S. blacks, had reached a point that Louis Farrakhan made it a point to speak out on it. You see, because like I said, he already came out of the 60s defending black women who had had their eyes slashed. But he had also seen, since the 60s, now we're getting into the 80s, and the numbers of blacks killing blacks, it was to the point that nobody had an answer. Nobody, could even speak out on it, really, in thinking that they would be big enough of a voice to make a difference. Well, as time come to pass, Louis Farrakhan put together a march of 1 million+ men. That's what he did. But like I said, I believe that those interviews are before the Million Man March. Arsenio Hall was trying to make it happen, and he should also be accredited for the how you say the success of the gathering. That part was a success, but yet being an invisible man, things just don't seem to work out, do it? When you're an invisible man, things just don't work out. It never does. And it should be known to the world that the Million Man March was unsuccessful, not because of the number. The number was successful, but the intent behind it was unsuccessful, you see. But yet, I don't want to hold that against neither Minister Louis Farrakhan or Arsenio Hall. The fact that it is a failure, it must be known throughout history that the Million Man March was a failure based off the intent of bringing to light the conduct, the hate that U.S. blacks have towards each other, to the point that they're willing to kill each other. That's what they do every day. Somewhere in the United States, another black is killing another black. Stevie Wonder here recently, again, let me fast forward just a little bit to make sure because Stevie Wonder been around a long time. Make sure that we're in the era when this statement was made. Stevie Wonder here recently in year 2020 said, if Black Lives Matter, then why do we continue to kill each other? Now that's come from Stevie Wonder. If you don't want to take anything from Harry Giles, you don't have to. But again, Stevie Wonder is another voice that has earned his position to speak, as well as Arsenio Hall. So those are just some names that I'm trying to drop, being Stevie Wonder. Everybody can see it. Ain't nothing wrong with Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter, protesting against police violence. There's nothing, wrong with that. That's an honorable thing to do. But sometimes you need to clean your own house, because right now, as it looks, President Donald Trump is sending feds down there in Chicago to fix something. And that's what he did. There's some talk going on that them people, yeah. Now wait till you see how they act. How a G-man really act. Because they just snatch you. Yes, they know who you are. And if you're walking down the street, getting out your car, yeah. Watch them people just sitting out and standing outside your crib now. Cars just sitting. Yeah, people just standing around. They know your pattern. Always remember, it's a different ball game now. With this killing of U.S. blacks, killing other U.S. blacks. It's been going on too long. And Arsenio Hall paid a dear price in that gathering, hoping that something would change. It never did. It never changed. From day one, blacks went right back to killing each other. Now you could say, well, why is it that Black Lives Matter, but yet you killing each other? See, at some point, you got to weigh it all up, man. Y'all gonna have to either clean your own house up, because people have given a lot to try to stop the black on black violence. Like I said, I'm bringing Arsenio Hall to you, who he knew what the Million Man March intent was. He knew. But see, you haven't really had that education. The education would be the Stop the Violence tour. That would be prior to the Million Man March. The Stop the Violence tour. Now, what I'm saying is not probably, those CDs or cassettes, however way they're sold today, are very possible to find. That's prior to the Million Man March. The Million Man March, where it all manifested, never really worked. And that's obvious because of the conduct we do daily. You can't say it's successful. Now, you brought the Million Men together, but you really don't listen to Louis Farrakhan. You couldn't. Because out of all the things that he asked, see, Louis Farrakhan would have to be somebody kind of like, if I compared him to somebody, it would be like Albert Einstein. Comparing him. Albert Einstein said that his invention was never used the way he saw it. You see, never used. Albert Einstein, he shake his head all the time, but he didn't draw it up like that. Same thing. Minister Louis Farrakhan will always toil with the fact his Million Man March was unsuccessful. He would have to toil with that because he know what his message was, and nobody went back and done what he laid down. You didn't do it because you continue on that course of killing each other every day. Every day you get worse and worse at doing it. Even during the virus out here. Nothing will stop the madness between how U.S. blacks kill each other. Nothing can stop it. I mean, what will stop it? Arsenio Hall gave his career, yes, for trying to stop the violence of U.S. blacks. And how he takes it today. I have said, I wouldn't do those things the way some people are much stronger than me. I have a hard core in my principles, yes, but I see other people that are amazing. As Mark Shield would say, they're godly. No, the things they can do are godly, because I couldn't do it. I wouldn't do that. I would think more economically that as long as I got this job, this career, I can help a lot of people. It would be that simple. I would never have done something like Kaepernick. And if it makes you dislike me because I'm being open and honest with you, those people are stronger than me. Yeah, what's his name? Kaepernick. He's stronger than me. People think I don't like the man. I do. I have no hatred for him. It's not a hate thing. It's just that I wouldn't do that. I would not get down on my knee with no man. That ain't gonna happen. Let alone, excuse me. Because I don't mean to laugh about it. It is serious. It is serious to you all. But me personally, I am an economic person. I am the first black man of reparations. So my whole concept is through economics. I don't go any other way to uplift a black man. Economically speaking, that is what needs to be on the forefront coming from me. That's what I practice. Okay, economics. No, I don't throw my career away because in doing that, you become a martyr. I don't make a good martyr. Somebody else can, but I do not make a good martyr. Okay, and I commend them. I commend Arsenio Hall. And Kaepernick. I commend them. More power, man. Because I'm not that strong. I'm not. I'm not that strong to do that. Because like I said before, the need to me, it doesn't leave a position, nothing like, they have to honor something. It really doesn't. There's nothing in writing. I mean, it's not a motion to move the court. It's a need. You see, so it doesn't line up with my way of going about things. I'm not against people that do it. It's just something I don't do. Same thing with Arsenio Hall. If they told you one time not to bring them back on the show, see, that would have been enough for me. And especially even thinking about what they might want to do to me behind that, I did it once, and didn't seem like too many people liked it. I wouldn't do it again because, like I say, I got too much to lose, and I can help more people because I'm into helping people. You can believe that. Most people know my heart. Most people know my heart. Like I said, you can always find some dirt. Everybody got some dirt they want to, slang. But what happens, like I said, the black on black violence is something that needs to be number one on everybody's list. That needs to be number one on everybody's list when it comes to, doing better. I mean, you would have to do better, the way you keep carrying on. I mean, how you expect to get somewhere like that? We can't smile no matter what. Pass our brothers and sisters, look them up and down like, they ain't no count. But today, I welcome and embrace Arsenio Hall. He is our feature today of The Invisible Man. This is Harry Gines. I hope you like the presentation. It's always difficult to leave you guys. I always get into these moments of getting through my presentation, but it is very difficult to leave you guys because I'm trying to leave a time capsule for history. If there's some youth out there that don't know Arsenio Hall, please do as much research and reading on this man's life and what his intent was and the sacrifices that he made. He made a great sacrifice for the black on black killing that steady plagues America today. This is Harry Gines. Look, you need to do something about that, and let's work together at it. Because it can't keep going like this. If you're gonna have feds coming in to police your communities and things like this, you're not gonna like that. You're not gonna like it because, see, for one, you might be based on that 24-hour. So you based on that 24-hour thing. That's what you used to. You can release me in 24 hours. 72 hours, 72 hours. But the feds don't really necessarily work like that. They get some answers. They're looking for some answers. They interrogate all through the night. You think you done got through one round, that next round might start 2, 3 in the morning, 5 or 6 in the next couple of hours. You thought, oh, they're done with me. Now they're right back at you. You didn't even get a chance to sleep good. No, ain't no sleeping. You still under investigation. And anytime they want to discuss something, it gets real more serious than what you've been used to dealing with the local community police. They have a whole different agenda, like reading you your rights. Okay, well, that didn't come till later on. Right now, you are the man that they was after to apprehend. And they'll deal with all them rights when they get you down where they want to get you at. So always keep in mind, y'all, we got to stay together. But the number one thing I'm asking myself to make sure that Arsenio Hall is on the team of invisible men in history. Yes, this is Harry Gines. Always remember that.